Shraj, the former commissioner, members of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, the U.S. ambassador, the German ambassador, the UN resident coordinator, and other members of the diplomatic corps, traditional rulers, fellow Ghanaians, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me at the outset to pat myself a little bit on the back here. I must have been doing something right in my other life. When I see today the two of my proteges, Yoni Kulendi and Kofi Dami, both members of Akufo-Addo, Prempa and Co., are occupying two important and sensitive positions in our state: Justice of the Supreme Court and Attorney General. And I wish them well, and I have every confidence that they will discharge their offices with credit. I'm happy to be here with you this morning to speak on a matter of importance to all Ghanaians, that is the fight against corruption. And I thank the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice for convening this event, which is also intended to commemorate International Anti-Corruption Day and International Human Rights Day. Corruption has been a perennial problem for several decades, and everyone in this room is well aware of the danger it poses to our nation. In trying to address the menace, governments over the years have introduced a host of policies and measures, including some unconventional and draconian ones. We have promulgated anti-corruption decrees with provisions for lengthy jail terms. We have confiscated the personal assets of public officials believed to have been corruptly acquired. We have declared zero tolerance against corruption. We've appealed to the good sense of the Ghanaian through moral crusades for integrity and given sermons on the sins of corruption. We've passed anti-corruption laws. We've strengthened anti-corruption institutions and undertaken public sector financial management and institutional reforms. We've also ratified regional and international anti-corruption conventions as expressions of our commitment to the global fight against corruption. And we have even tied people to the stake merely on suspicion of their being corrupt and shot them dead. We've done all these. We have the laws, we have the institutions, and yet the problem persists. But it is worth bearing in mind that it is not only the headline corruption, the type that involves politicians and high-profile figures, that retards our progress and hinders our development. The driver who knowingly puts a faulty vehicle on the road with the intention of paying bribes to the traffic policeman. The policeman who takes a bribe to allow an unlicensed driver on the road. The planning official who, with the receipt of a bribe, allows a house to be constructed on the waterway. The GRA official that accepts a bribe and allows goods in without the payment of duties. The officials that allow, on receipt of bribes, drugs to be imported into and exported out of our country. And all the everyday petty bribe-taking that we all put up with. All such actions constitute corruption and retard our progress, even if they do not attract headlines. It is true that corruption is not an exclusively Ghanaian phenomenon, but one which permeates all nations of the world. It results in reputational damage to businesses and establishments and undermines the public trust in governments. The manifestations of corruption are increasingly getting complex as it often occurs with the aid of professional enablers, such as accountants, lawyers, bankers, real estate agents, shell companies, and opaque financial systems that provide opportunities for the laundering and concealment of illicit wealth. If not controlled, corruption can stultify the economic aspirations of any nation. Globally, the World Economic Forum has estimated the cost of corruption around the world at some 2.6 trillion United States dollars. I accepted the invitation to speak here in order to take advantage of this occasion to place my government's record on corruption for public scrutiny. It will show that my government has undertaken arguably the boldest initiative since our nation attained independence nearly 65 years ago to reform and strengthen the capacity of our institutions to tackle corruption in the public sector. Charity, they say, begins at home. And that is why so far every single alleged act of corruption leveled against any of my appointees has been investigated by independent bodies such as SRAJ, the CID, and in some cases by Parliament itself. It is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing or of engaging in acts of corruption. That is the job of the courts. My job is to act on allegations of corruption by referring the issue or issues to the proper investigative agencies for the relevant inquiry and necessary action, including, if required, the suspension of the affected official pending the conclusion of investigations. That is exactly what has been done since I assumed the mantle of national leadership on 7th January 2017. Thus, it was that in 2019, I suspended the then acting head of the Public Procurement Agency from office after conflict of interest and corruption allegations had been leveled against him. Following recommendations from SRAJ, based on their investigation, I removed him from office in October 2020, and the Office of Special Prosecutor is seized with the matter of prosecution. If an appointee is cleared of any wrongdoing, the evidence adduced and recommendation made by these agencies after the investigations are concluded are what clear the accused persons, not myself. None of these agencies has ever indicated any pressure from the executive over their investigations. There are some who refuse to accept my method of proceeding and have characterized me as a clearing agent. Because for them, the mere allegation without more is enough to merit condemnation of the public official, even though they did not apply this principle when they were in office. For my part, I will not set aside due process in the fight against corruption, no matter how much opprobrium this incurs for me. Ladies and gentlemen, with a clear understanding that corruption thrives in an atmosphere conducive to its concealment, and that access to information is a vital tool in the fight against corruption, my government in its first term ensured the passage of the Right of Information Act 2019, Act 989, in order to give true meaning and effect to Article 21, Clause 1, Subclause F of the Constitution. The Act, which successive governments had failed to pass, sees to the implementation of the constitutional right to information held by a public institution to foster a culture of transparency and accountability in public affairs, subject to exemptions necessary and consistent with the protection of the public interest in a democratic society. The Act is being implemented fully now, with the governing board chaired by an experienced retired High Court judge. The Ministry of Information is in the process of training information officers in various ministries, departments, and agencies of government to support the full implementation of the law. In 2018, again during my first term, Parliament passed the Witness Protection Act 2018, Act 975, to which I gave my assent on the 24th of August this same year. The Act established a Witness Protection Agency, established a Witness Protection Scheme as a vehicle for offering protection to persons who are required to cooperate with law enforcement agencies as witnesses in the investigation and prosecution of cases, particularly corruption cases affecting public officers. Last year, the Criminal Offences Amendment Act 2020, Act 1034, was passed to amend Section 239 of the Criminal Offences Act to categorize the offense of corruption, previously a misdemeanor, as a felony, and to guarantee stiffer punishment of terms of imprisonment of not less than 12 years and not more than 25 years in prison. Other laws passed by my administration and which have enhanced significantly the capacity of the state in the fight against corruption are the Revenue Administration Amendment Act 2020, Act 1029, the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018, Act 982, State Interest and Governance Authority Act 2019, Act 990, Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020, Act 1044, the Corporate Restructuring and Insolvency Act 2020, Act 1015, and the Companies Act 2019, Act 992, the Narcotics Control Commission Act 2020, Act 1019, and the Real Estate Agency Act 2020, Act 1047. Administratively, a series of other far-reaching measures have been undertaken by my government to help in the fight against corruption. A memorandum of understanding on information exchange and collaboration in combating corruption and crime in general has been signed by SHRAJ, EYOCO, Parliament, Office of the Attorney General, Ghana Audit Service, the Ghana Police Service, the Financial Intelligence Center, the Narcotics Control Commission, the Internal Audit Agency, the National Investigation Bureau, NIB, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor to this end. Underlying the digitization agenda of my government, which comprises a robust national identification system, digital property address system, the paperless port system, e-justice system, pensions and insurance data, a digitized land registry, and mobile money interoperability system, is the overarching objective to improve transparency, accountability, and efficiency in the public sector. A digitized environment, ultimately, helps to eliminate and prevent corruption in various institutions and agencies. The Passport Office, Ports and Harbors, Register General's Department, the National Health Insurance Service, Driver Vehicle and Licensing Authority, which hitherto were fertile grounds for corrupt activity, are being transformed beyond recognition. The introduction of the Ghana.gov platform has significantly reduced the risk of public sector corruption through embezzlement, making it possible for services to be accessed and payments made online by card or mobile money, with a significant reduction in the conduit of middlemen or guru boys. It is also an undeniable fact that budgetary allocations for institutions actively engaged in public sector accountability, that is the Office of the Auditor General, the Judiciary, Parliament, and the Ghana Police Service, have witnessed unprecedented increases since I assumed office in 2017. At the end of 2021, the budgetary allocation to Parliament had witnessed a 194% increase compared to what was inherited in 2016. The police had seen its budget increase by 162% at the end of 2021 in comparison to 2016. The Audit Service had recorded an 83% rise in its budgetary allocation at the end of 2021 as compared to 2016. The budget of the Judiciary had risen by 51% at the end of 2021 compared to 2016. The budget of the Office of the Attorney General had increased by 50% at the end of 2021 compared to 2016, while the budget of TRAD had increased by 21% at the end of 2021 compared to 2016. These figures reflect my resolve to ensure that institutions of state of relevance in the anti-corruption agenda are properly equipped to discharge satisfactorily the mandate of their offices. In ensuring value for money, through the review of single-source and restricted tender applications, the Public Procurement Authority, between January 2019 and August 2021, recorded savings to the tune of 2.3 billion cedis. In 2017, my first year in office, the savings made over the year as a result of such reviews amounted to some 800 million cedis. Contrast this to the situation in 2016, where a grand total of zero savings was made. In the area of investigations and prosecution of corruption and corruption-related offenses, a distinct innovation was undertaken by administration in 2017 with the decision to set up the Office of Special Prosecutor through the passage of the Office of Special Prosecutor Act 2017 Act 959. The establishment of the Office of Special Prosecutor represents the most courageous measure by any government since independence to prosecute corruption in the executive arm of government. The monopoly of prosecutorial authority by an Attorney General, hired or fired by a President, had been identified by many as a key factor standing in the way of law enforcement and prosecution as a credible tool in the fight against corruption before 2017. In the course of the existence of the office, government has made substantial budgetary allocations to cater for compensation of staff expected to be recruited, for capital expenditure, and for goods and services. These allocations have unfortunately not so far been utilized by the office. It is refreshing to note, however, that the Office of Special Prosecutor under the second occupant of the office has finally moved into a 10-story building located at the Ridge in Accra that it identified for use 3 years ago, and which my government fully refurbished and made available to it. I am of the firm belief that with the right attitude, mindset, and appreciation of public service which he has, the new Special Prosecutor, Mr. Kisi Ajabing, will live up to the duties imposed on him by Act 959. Ladies and gentlemen, inasmuch as public officials are required to declare their assets upon taking office as a tool of fighting corruption, I'm, however, of the candid opinion that existing legislation on corruption relating to the conduct of public officers in Ghana appears to be inadequate to deal extensively with public office accountability. The need to lay down a set of far-reaching and a more fit-for-purpose set of regulations for the conduct of public officers, which will give effect to the provisions of Chapter 24 of the Constitution of the Republic on conduct of public officers, is, in my view now, self-evident. The Attorney General, on behalf of government, is currently leading the effort to enact a law on the conduct of public officers. Over the past 4 months, he has undertaken various stakeholder consultations with a number of public sector organizations, civil society, and other interest groups to this end. When passed into law, the Conduct of Public Officers Act will follow the example of legislations in other jurisdictions like the United States Ethics of Government Act of 1978, Public Officers Ethics Act of Kenya, and the UK Constitutional and Governance Act of 2010 in addressing issues regarding financial portfolios held by public officers before assuming public office, links to family business, improper enrichment, care of public property, professional practices, property investments, shareholdings, and other assets, self-dealing, partiality in the performance of duties, use of public or confidential information to further private interest, amongst others. The bill will provide a gamut of stringent administrative measures and of the law, ranging from a bar against holding public office for limited and indefinite periods to penal measures. The bill also seeks to strengthen the role of SHRAJ in the investigation of allegations of contravention of or non-compliance with the Code of Conduct for Public Officers, including conflict of interest, non-declaration of assets, and illicit enrichment. Let me use this platform also to update you about some of the important contributions of the Office of Attorney General in the detection and prosecution of high-profile corruption cases, as well as in the protection of the public purse. The state's tight purse is very much affected by the award of judgment debts in various unconscionable transactions. The recent example of a financial house claiming payment of interest of some 1.3 billion cedis after 11 years from a transaction involving a meager 268,000 cedis in 2008, even after the state had already paid some $75 million. 75 million cedis, comes to mind. Through the effort of the Attorney General, the Supreme Court declared further payment as unlawful, saving the state some $230 million. On 31st July 2021, the Attorney General succeeded in setting aside a judgment in excess of 15.3 million United States dollars imposed by the High Court Kumasi in an action arising out of the activities of the erstwhile Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining about 2 years ago. I'm aware of a bill by the Attorney General seeking to amend the Contracts Act, 1960-25, which will explicitly forbid a public officer from entering into a contract which states that the rate of interest to be that of compound interest. The bill is also going through the process of stakeholder engagements before it is brought to Cabinet and subsequently enacted by Parliament. With regards to prosecution, the Office of the Attorney General and the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EUCO, in addition to the countless cases being prosecuted around the country, have successfully prosecuted a number of high-profile cases including a case of stealing in the Republic versus Eugene Bafuboni and others. Many other high-profile prosecutions involving corruption, economic crime, fraud, procurement breaches, and money laundering, like the Republic versus Alhaji Collins Dowda and 4 others in the Sajalmi scandal, Republic versus Ernest Thompson and others, Republic versus Dr. Kwabena Dufo and others, Republic versus Stephen Opuni and others, are ongoing. It is worthy to note that these cases, as far as have as their sole object the principle of holding public officers to account, and involve sums in excess of 850 million United States dollars and 2 billion CDs. The punishment of corruption requires the establishment of a fair, honest, and efficient judicial system. A robust legal system underpinned by the rule of law goes hand in hand with economic prosperity, as it bolsters the confidence of the people and deters the perpetration of wrongdoing. Many a time, the prosecution of high-profile corruption is thwarted by unjustified delays, with frivolous interlocutory appeals filed to frustrate the course of justice and unwarranted adjournments. The efficiency of a nation's justice system is tested by the manner in which cases seeking to hold high-profile members of society to account are conducted. It is unreasonable and unfair for so-called high-profile criminal cases involving the summary offenses of fraud, willfully causing financial loss to the state, and money laundering to drag on for years, whilst criminal cases filed against perceived ordinary members of society are concluded within 6 months to 1 year. These developments deepen the perception of inequity in our society. The judiciary has a great role to play in the eradication of corruption. The best way to do so is by the speedy, efficient, and just adjudication of cases, especially so-called high-profile prosecutions, in order to affirm the principle of equality before the law. There is a conclusion to which I would draw the attention of those whose political purposes are served by the attempted stigmatization of my government as corrupt. More monies have been spent by my government on education, health, infrastructure, particularly roads, agriculture, industry, the security services, and the anti-corruption institutions than by any other government in the Fourth Republic, if not in the entire history of Ghana. Furthermore, after all these expenditures, my government was still able to find some 25 billion CDs to pay for the refund of depositors' monies arising from the financial sector crisis. These expenditures indicate clearly what taxpayers' monies and the revenues of government have been used for by the Akufo-Addo government. It is difficult to sustain any serious argument about the wanton dissipation of public funds in my time as president. Ladies and gentlemen, what I have done is to show you that my government has fought corruption not in words, but in concrete deeds. We have shunned mere exhortations and showy denunciations of unproved corruption. It has been a holistic approach. We've protected the public purse, we've made institutional reforms, we have enacted additional requisite laws, and we have resourced more adequately the accountability organs of state. Our fight against corruption has been grounded on legislative, financial, and institutional action, and not on lip service. Finally, Mr. Chairperson, let me restate the generally accepted views on the effect of corruption. It reduces revenue to the state. It holds back economic growth. It leads to a flight of capital. It holds and it inflates the cost of government. It stifles initiative and creativity and dampens motivation. It undermines merit and rewards appointments and success and encourages mediocrity, laziness, and incompetence. The responsibility of the executive is to enforce the law, no matter who's elected. That is a necessary foundation for the successful fight against corruption. The law must truly be no respecter of persons. I'm grateful for this opportunity to contribute my thoughts to this important conversation, and have the honor now to launch the National Cultural Review and Schools Integrity Programs. May God bless us all in our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong. I thank you for your attention, and I wish you fruitful deliberations.
There's a presentation of the integrity torch, which Deputy Commissioner Raj will present the torch to His Excellency the President. The President will present it to the Executive Director of National Commission on Culture, who then passes it to the Director General. Thank you. Yes, sir. Your Excellency. Not yet. We will take the photo session after the national anthem. Your Excellency would have the photo session here. First, the President with the Attorney General, the resident representative, Commissioner Waital,